Salutations and shit, folks. Welcome back to another episode of Travel and Shit, where I, your host, D. Carey, have an experiential conversation about the nuanced ways that travel intersects with regular life. So, as I like to remind you guys, anytime there are extra faces on the screen, the podcast is also available on the YouTubes so that you guys can also see my beautiful guest's face. To my beautiful guests, jumping right in, thank you so much for joining me. Welcome, and please introduce yourselves.
Thank you to Carrie for having us. We're so excited to be here. We're Marlie and Anthony Love. We run a show called Traveling While Black, or TWB. So basically, we travel to different destinations weekly, monthly, and rate our experiences on three criteria. It's how good the drive was, or travel, if we fly by plane, how much fun we have in each destination, and then also how comfortable we feel as Black people visiting for the first time. So we kind of call it like a modern day green book in a way. And we've been doing the show since 2019.
First of all, y'all are so adorable. And shout out to your YouTube pillow behind you.
Oh, yeah. Subscribe.
We will definitely have the links to all of that in the bio. But I want to jump in and say, first of all, I enjoy your content because I feel like you guys generally touch on the things that I personally like to visit when I go different places. So Black history is always seemingly present or prevalent. Well, it's the topic of the channel. So it's going to be there, obvious, right? But the fact that you guys actively look for it, which as a sidebar, we'll probably loop back around to it at a different point, but I hate that we have to actively work so hard. So that's why I specifically enjoy content such as yours, so that you make it easy for us. It is unfortunate that we have to do a lot of the searching for that information on our own. And shout out to, what do they call it? Like, the city's board of tourism. Some cities have decent boards of tourism where they will, make that information plain to you. And I find National Park Service also has a pretty decent reservoir of information. But say all that to say, your content has all of the points that I personally look for. So thank you for that. As creators, it is much appreciated, and y'all do a really great job of it, because getting the information is one thing, but you guys put it in really digestible and easy to process information. So kudos to you guys. I wanted to make sure I started with you guys getting your flowers.
No, we appreciate that.
Thank you.
We really appreciate that. That means a lot to us hearing that, because that's what really keeps us going, knowing we're providing the value to people, and also hearing you really enjoy the history, because that's really big to us. Like you said, some places it's harder to find than others, but being able to bring those stories, especially some of the stories we don't get to hear about as often, is really big joy for us as well. So thank you.
Thank you for doing the work. But how do you guys generally find your information? Because if there's something, because I know you guys are, is that considered the Pacific Northwest in Washington? Yeah, like the Pacific Northwest. So you guys are in that general area. So it's not as if the search engines or anything are different, right? But how do you generally find information about these destinations that you visit? What's your process?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, too. I would say it's like sort of twofold. Occasionally, we do work with a lot of, like you said, the tourism boards. So when we go in working with them, they help us with a lot of the attractions, or we might just explicitly ask them, hey, do you have any Black historical points of emphasis? And what's interesting about those conversations a lot of times is if they don't have anything already, it'd be their first time just thinking about it. And so from there, it's cool to see how they build after even working with us. But the other way is simply just, Google search. Start at Google, ask the question, and then from there, we find ourselves going on little sort of, rabbit trails, if you will. And
side quests and rabbit.
That's really a big way.
I would say that, like, especially like the destination or Google. And then if we find someone like on Google, we might reach out to them that are in that destination. So it's like maybe a historian or someone that's done an interview maybe as well. Because, 2020 was big for the Black movement in a way. And so there are like some articles there where people have contributed. So sometimes we'll reach out to them and say, hey, do you have anything more? Or what do you think about this too? It's just nice.
Something just came to mind. Our most recent episode we just released on a city called Edmonds, Washington, up here in north Seattle. We asked everybody. We interviewed Black and other BIPOC individuals living within Edmonds, if there's any Black history or anything connected just to the Black experience, nobody could tell us anything. Wow. We actually found out that the city, and it's kind of Black history, not really Black history, but it's connected to our Black experience. We found out that the city was actually named after a senator who was really a staunch advocate for Black civil rights during the Reconstruction period. Yeah. So, you know what I mean? So it's just something we are able to kind of share with individuals who are living there.
Yeah, right.
Was pretty dope.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
It's wild how a lot of information stays hidden until you look for it. Because it's like, you don't know what you don't know, but then it's like it just takes a certain type of person or a certain person to just be curious enough to be curious about the things that they don't know, to ask the questions that turn into the right questions that get you the information that you need. Yes. It's a fun little side quest, if you will. Okay, so if you guys could describe your rating system, I love the 10 points, the 10 system. I recently rewatched the video about how you rate everything, and Chef's Kiss. It also it's just another feather in your cap. Your website is also very well organized, and it is organized well for a person who thinks a million thoughts at one time, like having like your itineraries here, then you've got your blog posts here, you've got your episodes. So I'm like, oh, you're making this easy for me. So thank you for that. So it is also very easily accessible information. Some people will have, beautiful pictures. Where's the info? A lot of people, I don't need to watch a video for everything. Sometimes I can read a lot faster than I can listen for you to get to the point. So I love that you also have the blogs. That's something that I'm trying to incorporate, but it is a lot of work. And so that's why I specifically wanted to point it out. Thank you for that. As someone who enjoys multiple mediums of getting the same information. Well, please.
No, thank you for saying that, because I'm a blog reader as well. Even though we do videos, I like to read things. It makes it a little bit easier. So I'm like, we got to start doing the blogs. But it is hard to get those blogs and the videos and everything out. So that's my motivation.
As a creator point of content, it's like I see in like what you guys are doing, what I don't have the energy to do. And so I know how much effort it takes. And it's also after doing all of the research. You feel me? So it's just like, y'all deserve it.
So we appreciate that. And to be fair to you, it is a little bit, I guess, it's still a lot of work to say, but it is a little bit easier it being two of us.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yes. And that whole the whole website thing, that's all Marlie. Like Marlie took a lot of pride in making sure it is, like you said, it's sort of easy to be consumed.
Well done.
But no, it's a lot of work, like you said. It's a little bit easier with both of us, but you obviously have love for it, just like us, and that's what keeps us going and keep doing it. Yeah. So just want to be
if you could go over the your rating system, the Genius rating system.
Thank you. Yeah, so we just incorporated this rating system once we had our road trip. So before it was just a 5-point system. So now it's at 10 points.
Very subjective.
It's just like how we feel. We realize, there's people are different from us and they might weigh different things. So we'll start with our comfortability for Black people rating, and we have it down here just so we remember like exactly. If I look down, it's because I want to make sure I get it all right. So the first one is amount of Black people seen. So while we're in the area, how many Black people do we see around? Because as we all know, when you see people that kind of look like you, feel a little bit more comfortable in general. So we kind of weigh that.
Yeah, I'm not the first one you've seen today kind of into the groceries.
Yes. And then we go with the area's Black population numbers, like at that point. So some cities might have like 1 or 2% Black population, but you still see a lot of Black people around, and people might not care if the Black population numbers aren't big, but we just want people to know, or people might care. So we want that information always there.
And sometimes it's like a sort of a way we see the score can kind of balance itself out. If that makes sense. Meaning like we go into places where it has a very low Black population, but we actually see a lot of Black people. and vice versa.
So it seems like they're all in the same area is the point. It's
Absolutely.
like, okay, so if you want to find them, maybe go to a
or at least there's a place you can find, community.
Right. And everybody's mingling together peacefully. It's not like weird. We love that. We did prevalence of Black history, like we say, because a lot of times we're going these places, we're trying to find the Black history, and now we realize like it is important. And we also like Anthony said earlier, when we work with destination marketing organizations and we ask them about like where's the Black history? Are you guys talking about it? And they're like, we're not. So we want to make this an emphasis that it is important to talk about that history either on their website or at the history museum. Are you guys putting things out there as well? And
thinking, we've heard it said that, one of the best ways to really understand how a place is to understand its history. Yeah. And so being a show where we're sort of, kind of grading these places on a feeling of, really understanding it, that history is big, and especially our Black history, but even just the general history overall.
And the next part is our visibility of signs and artifacts of inclusion. Ooh. So, we're from Missouri originally. And coming up to Seattle, we saw a lot of like Black Lives Matter signs, a lot of pride flags, and we never really saw that in Missouri so frequently. And it kind of, even those Black populations, like 7% in Seattle, it still makes you feel a little more comfortable where you're like, oh, I walk in this establishment, I feel good, so
allies present.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny you mentioned that because we did a road trip, my partner and I, to Johnson, Vermont. And Vermont is white as fuck. So it was giving like, all right. And we were staying in a cabin on like somebody's 22-acre property. So like this was absolutely front and present of mind. Like, and I didn't necessarily have words for it, but just signs of inclusion. We saw a ton of Black Lives Matter signs, but we saw maybe 2 Black people. And it was like, okay, so it's giving ally, but then at the same time, it had me thinking like, why? But is this performative? And if so, who are you performing for? Like Black Lives Matter, but they're not here. So why? Like, is it that you want to fuck with your neighbor? Like, is this And so then I had all these other questions running, but for the most part, we didn't do town too much. So it was kind of when we went to Burlington, Vermont. There you can kind of feel like more collegey town. They had a lot of pride signage. And I think there was like one of the streets, because again, this was in, I think, 2020. And to your point, it was during that summer of inclusion. Yeah. And so there was like, how a lot of the major cities had done like Streets for Pride or Black Lives Matter. We had driven through that. And so it was like, okay. Yeah. And then, people just smiling at you walking down the street. And I'm from New York. So it's not like it doesn't happen. It does, but it doesn't. You know what I mean? So people being visibly kind to you and just greeting you is just always, oh, I'm seeing this. I noticed this because it's not as normal for me. But having the words for that, signs of inclusion, was just like, okay, and thank you for rating this on the point system. Please continue.
It is like you said. Washington is it's diverse with a lot of different communities, but it's just not a lot of Black people, and so you will walk into a spot where you're like, I don't see any Black people, but there's the flags and people are smiling and you feel a little welcome. So when people know that,
our Bellingham, we just did a 3 episodes ago, another city here north of Seattle, Bellingham's just like that. It's got like I think the Black population is 1%, but the whole city is full with Black Lives Matter, like pride signs. It's just really embedded within their like city. Yeah. So going in there, we also kind of had that question: is it performative? And so as we broke it down, what's dope about our scale, going back to our scale, was that the score that it got accurately sort of like reflected our experience within that city.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
And then the last one is just our personal feelings during the visit. So we get 2 points for that. Like we said before, we were giving 5 points for our personal experience, and we realized like we're different people. So we might have a great time, but if you go, maybe you might not. You might not. We're just talking about how we feel exactly, because it's just like
it makes it less subjective when you add other tiers or considerations to the score.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So that's our comfortability for Black people rating score that we love. Now our drive grade one, which is fun too. It's we do views because we live in Washington State now, so the views are very important to us, like seeing mountains and lakes and oceans and stuff. Roadside amenities. That's what's when you can get off the road.
Yeah, it's like gas stations, a lot of gas stations in between, a lot of restaurants. Oh
yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun story. And that was another reason why I was so excited to have you guys, because I can see a lot of what you guys cover in your content as just being personal points of experience.
Yeah.
So we love a good road trip. I think we did the numbers. I think we've done 17 road trips or so in the last almost 4 years. And one of them was, I feel like this is the one where we were coming, we called it our Rust Belt trip. We did Detroit, we did Toronto, Buffalo, and that drive from Buffalo, New York, back down to the city, you're going a little more Western New York, which is there's downstate, the city, 5 boroughs, gang, right? And you've got Northern New York.
Yep.
Totally.
I got family in Rochester, and we made that drive from St. Louis to Rochester, so I see everything that you talking about.
So that Western New York, and it was we went through so much of the state, and it's you're looking at 2:00 in the morning for gas. And you don't realize that a lot of that drive was through, I don't even know what road it was, but it was we're driving through farms. We're driving through this is private property on either side. How far till we get to an actual interstate? And then you get to the interstate, and it's not 95, or it's not 85 going to Montreal from here. And so it's where the fuck is the gas? This is closed. Or you get off at the exit, and you got to drive 2-3 exits through no lights, trying to find gas, and then that one's closed. I almost lost my shit. And so that, for me, again, personal experience reflected in your content is another reason why I appreciate that rating scale in it, because it matters. And I know it matters because I have experienced it. And it is definitely something, point to those that are still looking for tips, to pay attention to those things along your route.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah, no doubt.
No, you're so right about that.
By the way, we have to get your recommendations for an East Coast road trip. We want to do an East Coast road trip next year. So
I actually have an itinerary pack for you guys.
Oh,
there we go. I definitely send that to you guys. But go ahead with your rating.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. What else we say? Do you want to keep going?
Yeah, we won't go too deep into them because, we don't want to, but basically drive grade, like Mar said, views, roadside amenities, amount of gas stations and stuff on the road, side of the road. Difficulty of the route. Is the route sort of just a straight shot? Do you have to jump on different interstates, different highways? Is there a lot of traffic on the route? Then we look at roadside attractions, which is is there cool landmarks on the way? And that's some of the things we hit on our cross country road trip. Yeah. And then finally, this one's kind of personal for me because I'm kind of a cheapskate, but parking. I hate paying for parking.
It's a big deal.
It's a thing you got to consider. So we do put points into that. So that's basically our drive grade. Yeah. And then we get into level of fun. What are the quality of activities around? Is it a lot of things to do? Then the affordability. How affordable is it? Is it an expensive city? Demographic applicability. This is how,
that one.
You know what I mean? So is it a place for young folks, older folks, couples, singles? We kind of try to gauge that with that. Finally, quality of restaurants, because food is important.
I love a good restaurant. I love going out.
We will eat our way through trips. Yes. We will actually choose our accommodations based on where we know we're going to eat.
Yes. It's very smart.
And then finally, special events. Is it a lot of things going on during our visit? Is it a special event that people come to annually? That's basically that. Yeah. And that's level of fun. That's it. Yeah.
So what went into you guys choosing the items that you decided on for the rating system? Because it's clearly very intentional and well thought out. So what was your production process for that? What went behind that?
Yeah, so I think like before when we were doing our 5 point scale, we realized like it was, we would just do it on our own personal feelings, and we realized like that's doing a disservice to people, to everyone that's watching, because in the end we want to be a resource to
Yeah.
everyone. So we said, how can we be that resource, and what's like those major points that we do hit within our episodes already, and how can we break those down? So we kind of rewatched our old episodes and said, oh, we always talk about restaurants. Oh, we always talk about we had fun, but we don't know if these other people might have fun at this place. So that's kind of the main thing going into it.
And we will say that we're always sort of, improving it and changing it. For instance, those scales are going to look different when we do like our hiking episodes. Yeah. So we're going to be releasing the video to where we explain our we call our outdoor scales. And then also like overseas and international, that looks different, right? Yeah. Because for instance, comfortability for Black people, we recognize that not all of our folks recognize ourselves as Black overseas. So we kind of add another layer to it, Black or Afro individuals will say and just different aspects. So there will be, it's still changing, forever changing. But like Marlie said, initially just sitting down and thinking about what was really important to us in context, and then trying to use it as sort of a first starting point to springboard with our cross-country series that we did. And that was our first time using it. And we use it for all of our episodes now.
So back to a more generic question, like what was the inspiration for the channel? Like, why did you guys decide to actually start making this content?
Oh yeah, it's a cool story. No, you gotta tell me. I
feel like I'm talking the whole time.
So you guys are both doing great.
Oh, thank you. I'm like, so like I said, we were from Missouri, and we moved up to Seattle in 2019. I think that was about May. It was April 30th, so we're always like April, May. We don't know what day we.
I feel you. That would bother me too.
It's like very hard. So when we came up here, like we had people come visit us in May, June, July, and August. And in Seattle, it gets dark and rainy in the fall and winter. And we said, we have to get out and be accountable, because otherwise we're going to be sad, depressed, and people aren't coming to visit us. So we took a day trip up to Vancouver, British Columbia. And we were driving back, and we realized like before we went up there, we were Googling like, are there Black people in Canada? We don't know. And then we realized like, wow, this was really fun. We just did a quick day trip up to Vancouver. We said, how can we keep ourselves accountable? And Anthony was like, why don't we do like a YouTube channel? And then once we were asking ourselves like, what should we do the YouTube channel about? That's again when I was like, we talked about like, are there Black people in Canada? What's this like? We were in this long customs line getting back into Washington, and we had no idea that was a thing because we had never driven up there before. And we're like, this could be a resource to people like us that are transients moving to the Pacific Northwest, and we can help them get out and explore, and we can do the same as well. And then
we thought about sort of Mars don't like for me to tell a story sometime, but we found a original copy of the Green Book years ago at our grandparents' house. And so we thought that came to mind. I was like, oh, shoot, there was also this Green Book. So it's kind of got that, sort of feel to it as well. So that gave us a big inspiration as well to really keep moving forward to it, because it made sense that, reasons why he was doing it back then are still relevant today. So
sadly.
From that trip, just marked it on a napkin, outlined it on a napkin.
Said, let's do it. And I remember, again, we're from Missouri. Even though we grew up in Missouri, there's still places we knew, we're not really going to go because we know there's no Black people there. It's still a little uncomfortable, but we didn't know what those places were in Washington.
In Missouri? Like you're both from Missouri? I don't know a damn thing about Missouri. I'm
you're not the only one. We're from the St. Louis area. We both grew up in the same area of St. Louis.
I've flown over that before.
Flyover. They got the flyover states as well. But there's some nice-ish things there.
We got the Arch.
The Arch.
Nelly.
Yeah.
I promise you, like, no disrespect. I promise you. But like, Saint Lunatics, and
Hey,
pretty much all that I can say. That if
there
I
you
were
go.
caught on the street, mic to my face, going down, down, Fayetteville Street in the rain.
Look,
That's all I would have.
look.
Yeah.
All of us was born in one of the coolest cities in the world.
I wish.
And sadly, it makes you not appreciate it. Like, you have your moments of appreciation,
That's true.
but I'm like, I really there's so much here, and every couple of weeks, I'm like, there's so much more that you could be doing. And the way you guys are being a resource for Seattle, I'm like, I have so much stuff here at my disposal. There's no reason why I don't pocket it on the website someplace.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you for turning that screw in the back of my brain. But what is Missouri like? And what made you guys leave Missouri? How long, did you guys do school there? Did you work there? Were you young when you left? Because then that's a different experience, right? You grow up in an area, but then when you move by 20, it's your developmental life now gets to be not just your developmental, but a big part of adult developmental. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
No, we were born and raised in Missouri. Mm-hmm. So we went to college. Mine was 2 hours south of my hometown. Yours was 2 hours north of the hometown. 2.5 hours north. And I think that's, again, being in those South and North Missouri, I think that's another reason why we started the show, because it was a little sketchy around there for Black folks at times. And so Missouri's just a Midwestern state.
Now, what were your college experiences like? Because I know some people, so I grew up in a Black neighborhood, but then when I went to high school, and I went to a very Black elementary and junior high, and we had Black teachers. I had my first Black teacher, and my first teacher was a Black teacher. But in high school, it was mostly white kids, and then college, I went to a PWI. We had probably maybe 10% Black kids on campus, but I would think that it would be I would have to look it up. It didn't feel like it was that many of us there, but in fairness, I'm sure there were a lot more of us. So my experience, I know what that was like for me, going further out into very white, rich Long Island and not feeling safe there. I felt safer on a sketch block than I did on these tall, manicured, $1 million home streets, because I'm if I needed help, would anyone help me? And that's what made me feel unsafe. What was your college experience being in Missouri and saying how there are kind of disparate areas where there are Black people in certain areas, not so much? I know some of my friends and cousins had where did you go? I think FAMU, or was it not Shanti? Somebody went someplace and they were there's no Black people here, so we don't go out. Everything has to be on campus because we're not safe off campus. What was it like for you guys in Missouri?
That's a great question. I would say it was totally different experiences. Definitely. Yeah. For instance, my school, it was majority white, definitely. But the thing about it, it was basically an NAIA school. So a lot of the students that were there were basically there on sports scholarships. So because of that fact, there was a lot of other Black students. So what was interesting was that the college experience was because we all had sports, and that kind of made this kind of brotherhood, if you will. We felt safer in places, whereas if we didn't have sports, we wouldn't be in those places.
But also, you guys are more valuable.
That's another thing. I definitely personally got out of situations that a young Black man would not have got out of without a record unless he played a sport. Just stupid stuff, right? Not nothing crazy.
Things that you should get away with, but
exactly
as a teenager,
a learning situation.
Useful discretion, right? Your brain ain't right. You know what I mean? You ain't doing your best with what you got.
But no, so it was totally different. And I will say that what was very interesting to me, that when I looked back during those moments, it was not really a thought to me. It wasn't a concern. But the election of 2016 sort of made me realize a little bit of oh shoot, it wasn't as safe as I thought it was. You know what I'm saying? So that was sort of my experience. But
I think that the same, because even growing up in school from elementary, middle, high school, college, I think there's probably 5 to 10 Black kids in my grade or even in school. So it was very not very diverse at all. The college I went to was bigger, so I think it had 10,000 in general, but probably like 2% Black students.
Y'all all knew each other, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So it wasn't very like diverse at all, and that's what's crazy. Like even coming to Seattle with a 7% Black population, I feel like it could be just as diverse as where we grew up, compared to like maybe like even like the city of St. Louis and like Kansas City.
Yeah, absolutely. It's for us growing up there. We were able, and our parents kept us around our community.
Yes.
Like, because it was enough. Like, down at Kansas City I think, has the most collection of Black people, or not collection, sorry, population of Black people in Missouri.
Yeah.
Then St. Louis has a lot of Black folks. St. Louis is very segregated, but we are around each other.
Yeah.
And so,
and we have family.
And we have family and stuff. Yeah. So that felt like home. That felt comfortable for us. So when we came out here and the numbers say it's sort of similar, it didn't feel similar. But I think that's a reason why we're able to really do our show comfortably and maneuver in these spaces where we're allowed to be open for opportunity, that a good experience can be had despite what it looks like on the surface. And I think that's where everybody should get to. Nothing should prevent us in this world from experiencing some of the dope stuff this world has to offer through travel.
Yeah.
So
totally.
We're global citizens. As segregated, and these are all like man-made lines. You know what I mean? Like, if I was put here, what's the difference with me being put there? I should be able to pull up there and eat pasta there, pull up there and eat things there, like whatever. Like, we should be able to feel comfortable everywhere just because of the nature of what the land is. It's no one's land and everybody's land, Right. Very hippy dippy. I wish there were more fucking hippies in the world, man. You know what I mean? Just relax.
Yeah.
So what projects are you guys working on? What do you have coming next down the pipeline?
So next,
so
I'm like, what do we have?
We want to check out the Oregon coast. So a lot of our subscribers, we asked, hey, what should our next series be about? A lot of folks want to see the Oregon coast. By the way, have you ever been up here to like the Pacific Northwest?
I have been to Seattle.
Oh, no way.
Been to Seattle, and it is actually one of the funnier stories. So I booked an Airbnb in Tequila. And I pulled up, and they were like, they had the most incredible fucking view. It was nuts. And I was literally in a house with like senior citizen hippies. Like, I think like the youngest person that was there, because this was back when I was still okay, but now I could almost never. But I used to do more like shared spaces. And so I had like a room inside a house that had like a bunch of different roommates. And it was like the retirement house. I don't know if you're familiar with that social media account with like these adorable seniors. And they do all kinds of like really cool content. It felt like that, but not as cool. So they were nice, but it was like, this one woman, God bless her, she was a city engineer, and I was so intrigued, and I would have loved to talk to her about that, but she was so insistent on me taking the bus down to Seattle, and I was like, yeah, I'm good on the bus. Like, I got to take the bus at home. I will not take the bus on vacation. It's like I'm saved for the Ubers. But you should. And I was like, okay, she's making me feel a little sketch. Funny enough, one of my best friend's brothers is out there in medical school. So she's like, call Rob. Just fucking call Rob. And I'm like, girl, Rob is your brother. You're my friend, and Rob is your brother. And she's like, fucking call Rob. So I fucking called Rob, and he's like, all right, I'll come get you. We can go hang out, but if I come get you, I'm not going back out there. So like, I'm not doing 3 trips. So you come and I'm going to drop you off, or I'm going to come pick you up, and then you're going to stay here. But if you're going to stay here, bring your shit now. Explaining how the traffic patterns there, like, what was it, Nike or Amazon or somebody came out there and like, all of these people are working here, but the cities weren't exactly designed to have this many people. So you got these beautiful new houses, and like the communities look great, but like the traffic is nuts because they're just not necessarily designed for that. And we had a good old time. We had like all of his friends own bars. So like we just were at the best live music. I was floored, but Robbie also is in a band. So like he had the plug for like all the really cool shit. So I was drinking. We had beers and bites, live music. I had a good old time in Seattle. It was great.
Yeah.
Seattle was fun. Oh yeah, and I got my favorite tattoo in Seattle. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I got a travel sleeve, and that was a good one. I got it near Pike Place or Pike Street, wherever it is. Wherever that main street is, I made the left to where the tattoo shops are, not to where the Starbucks is. Apparently,
I think I know
That's all I
exactly.
remember.
I think I know exactly what tattoo that shop is.
Yeah.
The Starbucks down there, just like right down. Just know exactly where it is.
Oh,
Nice.
It was a good time. Seattle was fun.
Yeah.
Hey, look, that sounds like a dope time.
That does sound
If you
fun.
come out again, we're gonna show you some like even more of like Washington State. Like
That would be cool because I
Yeah.
really want to do a road trip. That's one of we almost booked it like a couple months ago, but I would love to fly into Reno. From Reno, drive to like, I think we decided on like Santa Monica. I don't know. We drive someplace in California,
Okay.
drive the coast to California, but my boyfriend's uncle was saying that the northern drive is spectacular. So we were going to drive up. I actually read this book series, Detective Jackson book series, and they're all based in Eugene, Oregon. And when I figured out Eugene is a real place, I'm like, oh, fuck. I want to be out there. I want to see. And then I always would say, because one of the main newspapers is like the Willamette. And then I was listening to a podcast, Park Predators. It's on like the Audio Chuck platform. It's one of Ashley Flowers' babies. Absolutely love it. So if you love crime drama and those kinds of podcasts, highly recommend. People die in national parks, and that's basically what the fucking show is about. It's so good.
Boy.
Missing and murdered people in national parks. Fantastic show.
That sounds dope.
A little scary for me, but I'll let you.
I learned I was pronouncing it wrong. It's not, I think it's Willamette. And I'm like, what is it? Willamette.
Yeah.
And so little things. I wanted to drive up there and then do Portland, then Seattle, or whichever comes first. I think Seattle comes first, right? And then Portland, or is it Portland and then Seattle?
You're headed north.
Okay, yeah, because Oregon, then Washington.
Yeah.
Stop in Portland, and then, because I've never been to that Portland, then do Seattle, and then we wanted to do BC. We wanted to do Vancouver, and then fly home. So that's the plan, but it's just a big plan. So
We totally get it. Well, before you go, especially Portland, check out our 2 episodes on Portland because there's some dope places in Portland that like we didn't even think that was in that city.
And they have some best food in Portland.
Best food, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because even Portland, Maine is good for food too. They've got incredible seafood because they're right on the water. So you got all that brackish water, the oysters.
You got the Portland, Maine.
We said that's one of the spots.
The most expensive oysters on now. Our favorite spot out there is called the Shop. So if you go to Portland, Maine to eat, go to the Shop. The most expensive oyster, and they of course have like the menu of like 4 or 6 different types of oysters because they're right there.
Yeah,
like $2.95.
$2.95.
Yes,
right.
Yeah, like that was the most expensive. You had like $1.75, and then like $2.95 was the most expensive oyster. That was back when we went in maybe 2022.
Okay,
I'd say 2022, 2023. We're going back in a couple of weeks, so I'll report back to make sure. But when I saw how cheap they were, because down here in New York, you could find great oysters, but you're gonna spend like $6 on the certain I don't know what breeds, the kind or whatever. You can get your little happy hour oysters. I have my spots. You can get them for $1, $3, whatever. But they were all very inexpensive, but like quality, different flavor profiles. You could get them dressed. They had like Dungeness crab claw with like, so good. So good.
That sounds
question, because based on your expertise and your experience.
Okay.
Because when you were in Seattle, you ate seafood, I imagine, right?
Actually.
What?
I know. I mostly ate bar food. That's literally all we did. All we did was, I only did beer and wings.
That's on the group.
All I did was beer and wings and chocolate. There was a chocolate, I don't know what you call like a chocolate factory or whatever. And I'm not really a chocolate girl. But like they were making the chocolate and they had all the different types and the flavors and I was intrigued and it was delicious. While you're there, wasn't in Rome, right? So I apologize. All I did was beer and wings. It was like 4 days of beer and wings and it was fantastic.
party trip. No, I was just interested on like how would you compare the seafood quality?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Damn. And the only other place on the West I've been is like LA for a day, 2
yeah.
days, and and Joshua Tree for like a week.
Oh, okay.
And I definitely didn't do seafood there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd have to give you guys your just due and not comment on something
Okay.
that
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
keep it cute and not like speak before I know what I'm talking about. But where have you guys found that your experiences have made for the most personally impactful, like where you were most surprised and kind of had to get out of your own thought process? Because a lot of times you go into locations thinking your own thing, right? You feel like, oh, okay, based on this set of information or based on what I found, I'm expecting this. Are there any places that you guys feel like, my bad, wasn't familiar with your game? What would you guys say that would be?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I would probably say Portland, Oregon in general.
Okay.
Because, the Oregon has the lash laws, like really bad, like Black history.
Exclusionary
Okay.
law.
Oh, right.
I can't say that word very well, so I didn't want to say it. So, it's very, very white state in general. But when we went to Portland, I was like, how are we going to feel? And the first time we went, I was like, okay. And then went down again and we really connected with like the Black community and got to see so much of it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love Portland now. Like I would move there if I wanted to.
It actually has really rich Black history too.
Exactly.
The Albina music movement. Check that out.
Yes.
That's a pretty dope.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I watched that video.
Oh, like the Black history probably of Black history of Portland.
That was really, it was like, go freaking figure. Was it like not the Harlem Renaissance that they had out there or something?
It was like a musical movement that was basically
Is it based on jazz?
it was so like pop. Yeah, I think you're thinking about Denver. That was Denver.
Yeah,
that was crazy.
Was the Harlem of someplace.
Harlem West. Yeah, that was crazy too. Yeah. No
what
doubt.
was that one like? How did you guys do like cold weather experiences while you were in Denver? Like, was it cold Denver that you experienced, or
No,
like
it was about April, so it started in
spring? Yes.
Okay. Okay, because that's one of the places I think of when people think of like winter vacations. Because I'm thinking like Colorado, like Aspen and all of that. Like, oh, we're going to the skis, to the slopes. All right, man, what kind of like outdoor activities also are you guys into? Besides hiking, do you guys do like cold weather activities?
So we went skiing for the first time in Bend, Oregon.
What was that hold on, we're in 2024.
Yeah, we're in 2024.
Is that February of this year?
February.
Yes.
Yeah. So
this is the first time skiing. And that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm a little baby when it comes to some types of things and like height. So I was like, just the bunny ramps for bunny trails for whatever it's called. I was like, I'm not getting up on those like slow things.
I'm not 31 anymore. The very adventurous me, we have laid her to rest.
Yeah.
There are certain things I'm just not interested in anymore.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I say. I'm like, I don't want to do it. And I'm not going
there.
to.
Did you do the lift? That is the most terrifying.
No, that's what
No.
I did.
Yeah. So maybe next time.
I'll try it.
Yeah. So skiing, we did snowmobiling before. Actually camping. So that was actually going to be one of those moments like you were talking about that was like, oh, we're doing this or we wasn't expecting this was when we were camping on the side of Mount St. Helens.
Yeah.
And that was like our first time camping. It was crazy because I think like, we were camping, we had to borrow a tent. We had like borrow a bunch of gear.
Yeah, because they have nothing.
But they had like this ranger helping us. We set up the tent and, we were in such the process of like filming it and stuff like that. Okay. It wasn't until like late at night, and it's probably like 2:00 in the morning that I wake up and I open my tent and I see the moon just like big, like you can reach out and touch it. And it just lit up the whole place we were surrounded by.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I think in that moment,
everything night sky.
Oh my gosh, right? The stars and all that. And so I think I want to give camping another try.
That's we probably do need to go out there and do that again. What else do we do? Hiked a lot.
Kayaking.
Ooh.
Listen, we kayaked, but it wasn't the best experience. I don't think we got our left right as well as we should. And we were in like the Puget Sound. I'm looking to the left. There's like big old ferries coming for us, and then another fast ferry, and I'm just like, we're running into other people's kayaks. I said, I don't want to. Ann can do it. I don't think I want to do it.
It was wild. It was definitely a crazy introduction. It was like a partnership, so we had to do it.
Yeah, we had to do
and so we was like,
we had to mute all the audio because they're like, "Can we get a few of those videos?" I'm like, "Take the sound off," because I'm like screaming, "Left!" It was not good. But that's what we try everything, and then we'll decide if we'll do it ever again.
A fair fade, you know what I mean? Like, I gave it my best. Sometimes your best ain't enough, but I did it. Now I know, I am confident in knowing I won't be trying that anytime soon, or I'll try it with more guardrails. You know what I mean? I'll put more barriers in place to ensure my comfort. I now know that if I'm going to do camping again, I'm absolutely bringing like an inflatable bed. The inflatable bed will go inside this constructed tent. Like, I can do a tent, but I don't think I can do the ground. That's
the hard part.
Not like up here I can, but like my body, my back. I feel like that would be like the despairing difference. Now, the follow-up question for you would be then, are there any places that you were very disappointed in? Were there any places where you actually felt unsafe? Like there's always great fun. There's, positive to report on, but also not even as like a slight to a particular city or to the people of a city, but it's more of a safety concern for a lot of us, unfortunately, for whether or not, if I'm going to spend $1,500 on a nice little vacation where I'm trying to, have a good time, I would like to enjoy myself, Totally. So are there any places where you guys feel like, we're not going to do that again, or we would need more bumpers, more barriers in place to maybe ensure our comfort?
Oh yeah, definitely. One place probably stands out, obviously for us, is Forks, Washington, and Forks, Washington is on like the coast of Washington State.
Like they call it the Olympic Peninsula.
Yeah. Okay. Beautiful area. There's a beautiful rainforest up there called the whole rainforest. Yeah. And so we went there because basically it's known as Twilight Town. So the Twilight book series, the vampires and the movies.
Oh, that's why it was, because I'm like, I feel like I've heard of it, but I don't know.
Right. Okay. Right. That's why we'll go check it out. But those people are extremely racist. And so it was like we went there for one experience, a cool kind of fantasy type world type thing. And then what we got was hit with the reality that Washington State, even with liberal Seattle, is a place where a lot of like white supremacy still resides.
Yeah, totally.
And we saw that in Forks, Washington.
Yeah, so we gave it a 1 out of 5. And then we did some research after we went, because I think we went in January of 2021. Mm-hmm. And then in June, we researched it because we're like, oh my God, this was horrible experience. Are we crazy, right? Mm-hmm. And June 2020, mixed race family was camping out there, and the town basically, actually, Aunt, you're good at telling the story. Go ahead.
No, and this is what actually made us start doing research beforehand. But what we found was after our experience was that back in June of the previous year, there was a mixed race family who went out there to go camping, and basically they went to the same diner we went in, sort of had a crazy threatening experience. Basically, they went to the camping spot and they heard like just basically people shooting guns around them, heckling them. It was really bad, almost like terrorizing this family. Yeah. So they tried to leave like in the middle of the night. And when they hit the road, there's only one road coming into Forks, really. When they tried to hit the road, there's this tree that was cut down, blocking the road. And they said somehow, luckily, just some local high schoolers had to be out and about. And they got them to cut it up and let them away. Yeah. That was one of a couple of other experiences that happened just before that. And so when we put this experience out, it was amazing how many people responded to our video. Up into our road trip series, that was our most popular video on our YouTube channel, was that experience. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But how many other people said that they had similar experiences, not just Black people, just similar experiences because they were different out there
in the Forks. Yeah. And they were like, I think the Chamber of Commerce in Forks was like, you guys want to come back out? We said, there's no way. We're not coming back out that way.
There's not that many people in that town, right?
Exactly. So it's a very small town.
Yeah.
That enables a lot of that
Exactly.
Why would we change? It's the same 15 of us in the grocery store every Sunday at 12. Like,
Exactly.
And it speaks to the value of travel. This being the travel show,
Mhm.
it speaks to the value of travel. Those individuals are probably more than likely folks who never traveled or ventured that far out
To
from
change
where they're
Mhm.
at right now to change their mind.
Exactly. It was scary. We even we stayed there overnight and we put like our
Mm.
chair up against the door because that's how
Yeah.
like nervous we felt. And like I think it was 5 a.m. We woke up, we packed our bags and we said, let's go. We didn't even I don't think we even got gas. Or I think we got gas. We realized it was weird. So we're like, let's get gas before we go to sleep. Just in case.
Yeah.
Fill it up, you know. And
Yeah.
all we had to do was like peace out as soon as possible and got in that car and said we're heading back home because it was very weird.
Okay.
That spot, and then the other only spot that was kind of weird that we get was Billings, Montana.
Oh yeah, but that was more so like just the people, like no shade to Billings people.
Yeah, no shade to those
but
people.
Billings people did kind of confirm this for what we're about to say. But Billings people are just kind of not just but Montana people overall, just sort of like people who like seclusion and are like closed off. You know what I mean? So it was more so
like stay away.
Yeah.
What are you doing over here?
Going over there type deal.
Yeah.
So
I just needed a banana.
You're right.
Yeah.
It's
like,
a gas
wow.
station. I just wanted some water.
Right.
So that was a little. I think that was kind of like maybe one of the worst
that was
experience. Not like in terms of like racism or safety. It was just very like I don't think I'll ever go back there.
It was uncomfortable
again.
at like a welcoming standpoint.
Yeah, and it's the biggest city in Billings.
In
Montana.
Yeah.
Billings is the biggest city in Montana, so we thought that going to the biggest city in Montana would be like a little more.
Yeah,
it would be a little more. Well, so it sounds like they just were kind of okay. So this is a good question. Maybe you guys notice or feel the difference. There's a level of I'm ignoring you because I'm doing something else, and then like passive ignoring, right? But then there's active ignoring. When I know I'm here, but you are actively making me feel invisible right now. And I can always feel the difference. Which, if either, what are we feeling on Billings? Is it giving active ignoring, or is it giving they just were outright nasty? Were they just one word answers? Or
no, I think it was more so just like what you're saying, like more so, I guess, actively ignoring just because. Again, that's just their culture, like a better words. It's like, let me say this. This is kind of like a juxtaposition, right? Seattle is passive aggressive capital of the world. They call it the Seattle Freeze.
Yeah.
Everybody, and like you said, Seattle was a very liberal city. You see Black Lives Matter signs everywhere, so you know it's not a race thing. It's just a people thing.
Yeah.
They're just tunnel vision. Don't like to make plans. Whatever. You know, ain't really say, hey, how you doing on the street, whatever.
It's always dark up here.
Always
dark. You're just in your house,
know.
that's it.
But if you meet them, if you do break that shell, they're nice people, right?
Yes. Yeah, okay.
Like 3 friend group. Okay. You know what I'm saying?
I can see that.
You know what I mean? So
Billings
is like Seattle people that lack the visibility of inclusion.
Got it.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So like they didn't have any of those signs. It was this old Western signs that threw back to old Western times where black people.
That's like being in the South with Confederate flags because y'all don't have those out there. I would assume. I'm assuming maybe a transplant or two. God bless them. Motherfuck them. Not God bless them.
Right.
But that's what our very sign of not of exclusion is seeing all the Confederate flags along your route or, outside of the different stores and in people's windows, the Trump 2016s or the Trump, all the different Trump signs that we would drive past. And it's just,
yeah.
That's how you know.
Yep.
I get it. Okay. Exactly. I'm getting Billings for you. How can we support you guys? Where do we find you and how can we show support to you guys?
Well, again, DeCarrie, thank you for having us on. We're so excited to be here again. But you can find us on YouTube at Traveling While Black. Our website is travelingwhileblackseattle.com. All of our socials are Traveling While BLK. As of right now, we might switch them up. So if you just Google Traveling While Black, Marlie and Anthony, all of our stuff should pop up for the most part.
And also, if you do go to the website, subscribe to our newsletter because we just started our newsletter. We share dope tips, and also basically what we're going to be up to, and also links to our latest episodes. So definitely, if you can, subscribe to our newsletter.
Marlie, Anthony, the Loves, which is such a cool last name. Like, I've only ever met one person named Love. Shout out to Scott Love. He was a dope dude. But thank you. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you guys' input and your expertise. And again, kudos to you guys on the incredible content. You do very well with it. You are informative, digestible, and like spot on with all of the markers that people actively search for. And by people, I mean me. And you also remind us that travel is so much more than vacation. Travel also gives you that opportunity to tap in culturally. Because one of the things that we were actually talking about earlier today is how a lot of times Europeans will say, "Oh, Americans are so untraveled and y'all don't go nowhere." But the United States is huge.
Right.
It is huge. We can go 45 minutes, an hour, and still be in the same city, let alone the same state. Whereas in certain places in Europe, you could go an hour and be in 2-3 different countries.
Right.
So yeah, y'all are going to travel more if you're leaving any place for maybe 2 hours. But here we've got so many just regional differences. We were just talking about random regional differences in different states. Louisiana has so many different cultures. South Carolina has so many different cultures, and it's just one state in an entire country of things. And so with your content, it just gives you that opportunity to view travel through a different lens. It's not always about going to a beach. It's not always about going to, a lot. I don't feel like my listeners are that demographic anyway, but there's so much more than vacation. And thank you for highlighting a lot of different ways that many of us view our world through travel. It was a pleasure to have you guys, and I look forward to following you guys' content, especially that road trip content. As a road tripper myself, I'm definitely going to further dive into that so that I can keep a couple of different back pocket ideas of ways to look for information. So thank you for joining me. And of course, all the links and the resources will be in the description box. And I will see you guys next week. Bye.